Hello and welcome to Win-Win Women. I'm Sam Rafis, your host for this metaphysical show focused on faith and inspiration for you to succeed in all areas of your life. And you guys know, especially if you've tuned in to the show, you know that every month I have a new theme, and this month is spirituality. Today, I am joined by a very special guest. I'm super excited to have her on the show. And we always start out with our Love Brand You prayer. Again, those of you that know the show well by now, we always start out with the Love Brand You prayer. So if you want to take a moment, settle in, I always take a deep breath. And if you like, close your eyes and just let yourself hear and feel these words. My God source loves me no matter what. I am always lovable and give myself compassion for everything I've ever done or not done. Love heals me more quickly than self-judgment. I choose love now for me and for everyone in my life. For this, I give thanks. I let it be so, and so it is. Amen. Whew. Okay. So I said I had a guest, so I'm going to introduce Deanne to you, and we are going to talk about spirituality and music. So first of all, Deanne is a Canadian vocalist, and she has many superpowers. She brings a sensual style, a stunning emotional range, and a deep connection with her audience to everything she sings. She's made a name for herself across Canada and beyond with her dynamic live performances. She has just released her 6th jazz album. Welcome, Deanne. And I'm going to get you on mute because I think I muted you. Welcome, Deanne.
Hey, Sam. Thanks for having me.
Oh, like I said, I've been waiting for you to be on the show since I last talked to you and said, do you want to show up and do an interview? And you were like, sure. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for thinking of me.
Oh, and I start out with every guest, your backstory, a little bit about you and how you arrived at what you're doing now.
Okay, so my journey, Cold Notes. So the last 10 years, I committed to being a full-time musician. And currently, I'm born and raised Calgarian, Alberta, Canada, and now I live in Montreal, Quebec. And so 10 years ago, I took the plunge. I took the risk to leave my day job and do music full time. Woo! It was scary at the time, but I figured, if not now, when, and if not now, never. And I didn't want to, I believe in not having any regrets, right? So I was like, let's go. I think when I put my mind to something, and, I call it being very courageous. I think a lot of people perhaps don't pursue their dreams for fear-based, and I totally get it. But that's why I was like, no, I'm going in. And like, boom, 10 years later, 6 albums later, still, living the musical dream, and also, found the love of my life here in Montreal. So, which, and I just have to say, like, that opening prayer, like, just was something I just needed to hear today. I just, self-love and let go of judgment, because, also, as an artist, I also like to beat myself up the most. So, of course, that was just such a great, I just wanted to say that because Sam, I really resonated with me today. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. And when I first said that in the first couple of episodes, my intent was to actually change it every week. And every time I said it, it was like, no, this just feels right for Love Brand You. So I'm glad you love it. So
I totally love it. Yeah, I was like, yes, I needed to hear it today. So thank you.
Oh, that it's going to bring a tear to my eye. So okay, I've got to go on with the next question. Thinking of taking that plunge, and I agree. courage. It does take courage. And like you said, I'm not taking away from anyone who decides to stay in their, their day job and not follow their dream. Everyone has to create their own path. What was it that was the final nudge, and maybe you say quickly what your day job was and what made you just go, you know what? No, I love music. I'm going to take the leap.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with me being a Capricorn. Well, I'm on the cusp. Right now, I'm more in my Aquarius side, which is 10 years ago. I think it was like I was selling advertising for for Fast Forward Weekly, which was at the time the really hip weekly newspaper. And I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I loved it. But I was also gigging at the same time. So I was, selling advertising. And then I was also teaching voice lessons. And I was, gigging with different bands and, creating music that way. And I was just like, maybe I can actually do this, and make this as a living. So, then in 2012, well, actually that summer in 2010, I went to Berklee College of Music for a summer, and it was just like so imprinted on me about just how much I loved being just around music for, a whole summer and learning and growing. And then it was just one of those things where I was just like, it just kind of like dawned on me because I was doing so many more gigs, and I started thinking, and I was teaching, and I was like, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I was really actually kind of afraid to tell my parents. I just beers and pizza, and I was like, and so at the time I had a partner in too, and he was really supportive of the decision. And he had he's like, well, if you, need any support. But I'd been smart about it too, because I'd saved money to put aside. It's like, well, if I'm going to go for this, I need to have some money set aside, just in case. And then the universe just kind of really worked out for me. I ended up getting kind of a regular teaching job at this really great studio. And so that really helped. And then then the business mind just kicked in, and everything just started falling into place. And voila, that's kind of how it started. And that was my just go for it. It was like, just do it.
Yeah. And, as you're saying that, and you're saying the universe aligns, and I've said it with other guests that, if anything I do know, and I believe it's Emerson. I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson that says, like, once you make a decision, once you decide in your mind, the universe conspires to help you make it happen. So the universe helped you make it happen.
Yes. And then, of course, there was that whole journey on its own that I think the universe was like, yes. And then you're going to learn a lot.
Okay, share a little bit about that. I know I've got a few questions that we talked about, but I love it when the conversation just naturally happens too. So share a little bit about that.
Well, again, I'm a completely different woman today than I was 10 years ago for all kinds of reasons. But the journey of a musician is not necessarily an easy one. And it was really apparent to me how important it was to do the work, to do the personal development work, and to work on my self-esteem. Because for me, what I've realized, and this is what I've realized over the last couple of years, because obviously the last couple of years, there wasn't a lot of music going on for me, that I was like, my ego was driving the bus.
Oh,
And I was like, why am I doing music? Right? Like I had some deep self-reflection about music, and, reasons why I was doing it weren't necessarily healthy. And for me, a lot of times too, it was like, everyone was like, oh, it's so cool, you're doing your passion for your job. I'm like, yeah, but my passion is now my job. Right? So, it's like, anyway, so part of that learning was about how I needed to go through this path so that I could do even deeper work for myself, so that I could kind of come out at the end a woman with higher self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-love. Right.
Nice.
and putting the ego aside and be like, I'm driving this bus now, girl. Like, I got this, and that was something that I just realized over the last couple of years. So definitely been so many wonderful gifts in this process.
I love it. So tell us about your new album. I want to make sure we talk about that because I know some of my listeners, some of my viewers, some of your people that follow you that maybe haven't heard about it, then we want to know about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that cover.
Yeah, me too. So this cover was all about channeling my inner feminine and masculine energy. And it's called the Alberta Lounge. It's my 6th vocal jazz album. And I received a beautiful grant from the Alberta Foundations of the Arts to record this album. And originally it was going to be kind of a different concept, a different title and everything. And then I decided that I wanted to write about this song. So the album it's inspired by Oscar Peterson. And so when I started writing the material for it, I got the idea to write about this club called the Alberta Lounge, which existed in Montreal. And that's where Oscar Peterson was discovered. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to write a song about this, seeing how he was discovered at the Alberta Lounge. I'm from Alberta, Canada, the province. And I was like, boom. And it's like the song came and a friend of mine suggested, he's like, you should call the album the Alberta Lounge. I'm like, I think so too. I'm going to sleep on it. And then the next morning, I was like, yeah. So that's how this kind of came to be. And yeah, and it's been a fun process. This album has really just been about the music and the fun and the joy. And then it's just like, all right, let's do this, let it go and let it out to the universe.
And so you wrote that song. Did you write all the other songs on the album too?
No, so I wrote 2 originals,
Okay.
so the Alberta Lounge and If You Were Here Today. And then the rest are 2 tunes that Oscar wrote, and then as well as other standards that he had previously recorded. Not that he wrote them, but just, some really fun standards. I threw in How Come You Do Me Like You Do, and I was a little bit cheeky in that piece. And then there's, that nice tender ballad, When Summer Comes. And of course, Oscar's infamous song, Hymn to Freedom. So I believe when creating music and albums that I like to have original and covers on them. That's kind of how I like to put my albums together.
I like that. And I cannot profess to say that I really know that part of the music industry. I know as a listener, I know when I'm hearing music that I think it's powerful to know that somebody wrote an original song. I think it's like, oh, wow, that talent.
Yeah.
Then on the other side, it's always nice to hear and sing along to old familiar favorites. So I think you did.
That's exactly it. Yeah. It's totally believe in songwriting. I think it's a wonderful gift to have. And I also like to celebrate other songwriters.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah. And then I wrote lyrics in French to a Lionel Hampton tune. It's called Merci pour ça. And
that's right. You're bilingual.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I speak French.
Nice.
My man's from France, so that helps too. So him and I wrote the lyrics together, actually. And so we had a lot of fun with that.
Oh, okay. Now I really have to listen more. And I did hear a little bit, I believe, and now I just know, okay, I have to listen to the whole thing. All right. You got me. Do you still, or not still, do you have the same band that you work with, or do you have different musicians in Alberta and Montreal, or how does that work?
So I'm very blessed because I have such a great team of musicians in Alberta and Calgary, and I have a great team here in Montreal. So I'm so fortunate when I kind of cross the country that I have, I do a lot of my recording here in Montreal, and then I do a lot of more live stuff in Calgary right now. And it's just so great to have wonderful teams, just full of amazing Canadians, to be honest. Like part of my album is talking about how badass we are Canadians. Like we are amazing and we come with such a force. So I'm just really blessed to have across the country such wonderful musicians to work with.
I love that. I feel like I keep saying that, but it's true. I love it. I love it. Is it well known in the world? I'm like, in your industry, or are Canadian jazz musicians like you and the musicians and everything, are you guys well known across the world, or is it more Canada and the States?
So an interesting thing about that is I was doing an interview, a live interview radio with a radio host out of the States. And she was super honest with me. And she's like, honestly, she's like, I didn't know anything about any Canadian jazz musicians until she was starting to receive Canadian music. She's like, because we just have so many American jazz musicians. And I was like, exactly. Someone had mentioned like he didn't even, he's an American and he didn't even know that Oscar Peterson was from Montreal. Right. So it's just, obviously we have some Canadians that are killing it out there in the world, and the whole world knows who they are. But there's so many more of us, so I can't say per se. I mean, I think so, but it's definitely, I think we're creating more and more of a buzz, perhaps, like we're, putting our mark on the world. But yeah, that was interesting when she said that to me, and she was a little bit embarrassed, but I was like, well, I get it. So.
Well, and great that you're on her show.
Yeah, I know.
Because that's the whole point, getting your album out there, getting jazz music out there, spreading the word out there, coming on shows like mine when I'm like, Deanne, come on my show, and you're like, yes. So I know I'm a fangirl. If anybody hasn't figured it out, I've been a fan of Deanne's for a long time. This show is about spirituality and faith, and I just want to ask you, how do you grow in your faith, and how do you practice your faith? What spirituality do you, I guess?
So yeah, spirituality. I consider myself to be a very spiritual person, in regards to like I do meditations, I connect with other people on a higher level, I speak with a higher purpose, I check in. A lot of gratitude I find has been very helpful, and just I feel that that's also been part of the reason why I've been able to sustain a relationship with music, is because I had that as well. There's a wonderful non-denominational church, I guess, called Unity in Calgary that when I lived in Calgary, I attended, and I just loved going there. I mean, I literally would like sit in the pews and just be like, like I would just receive so many beautiful messages that, God of your own understanding. Like I love that. I was also very much into, at one point in my life, 12-step programs. So again, having that higher purpose and understanding that there's a universe. I like to use the universe a lot. Like the universe has my back. The universe has a bigger picture for me. Trust the universe, stay in my path. And, sometimes it's harder than other days, to be honest. And when I'm in my manifestation mode, it's sometimes I'm like, okay, universe, like you're really challenging me now, because like I'm running out of time. So, and then the universe still comes through, and I'm like, okay, so, like that was scary, but it's insane how I've been able to instill this kind of information in my partner, because he didn't come from that kind of belief of spirituality, universe, of bigger than us kind of mentality. And he's been blown away by the things that have been manifesting. I'm like, don't worry, it'll come. I'm like, we got really clear. And he's like, and then boom, things happen. He's like, whoa, babe. He's like, you're starting to scare me.
I always say to people, and I'm not perfect by any means. However, once you practice, and once and things happen, and I've been at the 11th hour too, and it's the usual, oh, I give up. And then, it's when you let go of all that resistance, for lack of a better term, that the universe is just reminding you that these are universal laws. So this is what I tried in because this show is about metaphysics, and I'm teaching people that, and living it myself. It's like none of us can do it any better, other than we're just following the metaphysical laws. So anyway, so
Yeah.
you must be doing something right.
Well, again, I'm practicing as I
Yeah.
like. I like to practice, and sometimes it goes great, and sometimes it doesn't go great. And then when it doesn't really work out, I'm like, okay, well, that's okay because it wasn't meant to be. Like there's that whole kind of underlying understanding of something bigger, better is coming. And even though
True.
in the moment there's still slight disappointments, I think that's really allowed me, especially in the last few years, has really allowed me to just kind of step into my own power a bit more and my own confidence and just let it go and let it flow, let go, let God, like all those
Yeah.
kind of things. I'm definitely not perfect at this whole thing. There are days when my anxiety kicks in and I just big ball and like have a good cry but
Hide under the covers.
yeah, because I mean, hey, it hasn't been an easy per se journey, but it's definitely been rewarding. Mhm.
Nice. Again, my word for the show. I love it. Tell our viewers how they can find out more about you. I know we've got a few more minutes to get into some other things, but I just want to make sure they know where they can find out more about you.
Oh yeah, well, my website, deannemattley.com, I put it in that's where you can kind of get all the things. But if your music fans, would be awesome if you could follow me on Spotify and YouTube and yeah, Bandcamp. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to support musicians, and is by following them and subscribing to their channels and buying their music.
Yes.
You know,
Buying the music.
buying
And
the
you're on Instagram too. Is it Deanne Matley on Instagram? Yeah.
Yeah, yep, on
Yeah.
Facebook,
Yeah.
TikTok, Twitter, all I'm working on my TikTok, trying to find my.
I haven't done TikTok. I'm on everything too, Deanne. I can't. For me, and I'm like, I said to my girls, I'm like, okay, you guys can stay on TikTok. I think I'm. Anyway, let's not
But yeah,
go there with TikTok.
I'm around on all the socials. It's kind of one kind also has to kind of be there, for my business music.
Right. Yeah. And I will have those of you that are here live and you're joining us after the show to talk with, have a conversation with Deanne. We can talk more about that. If you want to get links, we'll make sure that we get them to you. Then if you're watching the replay, I will have them in the show notes, especially when you go to YouTube, Love Brand You on YouTube, Deanne, I'll have it all in the show notes there. On Win Win Women, you'll be able to link to mylovebrandyou.com and I'll have some more information there. Anyway, we'll make sure that we've got the links and we've got information for you. Tell us what you like the best right now about what you're doing, because I know you're traveling around. I know you're promoting the album, but you're still teaching and coaching too right now, aren't you?
No, I haven't
Oh,
coached.
I thought you were. Okay, my mistake. I thought you were coaching other musicians.
Oh, I haven't really coached for a while now. I kind of stepped away from coaching. Where I'm kind of more interested, and I see Lori's on. I just want to give her a shout out. Hi, girl. I now kind of want to move into more producing and helping women in the studio and setting them up for success. And that's something that I'm starting to explore right now. So I'm not sure what that looks like, but that's where I kind of want to start heading towards, I think, because after my last experience, I was like, all right, I've got some knowledge, I got some skills, I'm going to learn a bunch more. And I want to share that with other women, because being in the studio, from my experience, isn't always easy. I'd rather sing live, but now that I've done so much more studio stuff, especially over the last 2 years, it's my happy place. So I kind of want to, for women, especially that have never been in the studio and if they want to do a project, I want to set them up for success from like day one. I've got a girlfriend that I'm working with right now. She's like, I know nothing. I'm like, girl, I got all the info. I can get you players. I can get you the studio. I can set you up for success.
And so any specific recommendations? Like if someone's listening into the replay at this moment in time, any recommendation for any, is it women you mostly work with, or anyone breaking into the music industry? Is it specifically in your genre, in jazz, or is this broad? So
I mean, I obviously am happy to support men too, but I think it's kind of like, I just love supporting women. And anyone that's really just wants a really honest, also, because I think that's a nice thing about being able to go in the studio with them, is because I'm also a vocal coach, I have also the ears for that as well, and I can help in the mixing process. And like, I don't know, I think there's a need for it, and I'm feeling pretty strong about it. But again, I'm just going to kind of keep putting it out there to the universe, going to do some more thinking. My girlfriend's she's letting me kind of be her guinea pig, so that I can explore this process with her and see, if it's something, I even want to do, or if it works, but yeah, so we'll see. I don't know. We'll chat in a few months and maybe I'll be cutting hair. Who knows?
Something tells me you won't be. So I'm looking at my timer here. We've got 5 minutes for our session, and anyone who is here live, stick around. We get to talk with Deanne after I hit the stop button for the recording. And those of you that are watching on replay, you'll have to connect with Deanne that way. Anyway, before we get to the end here, what words of wisdom would you like to leave us with?
Well, do the work. Do the personal work. That is something that I see in a lot of fellow musicians and people in my lives, that I know if they're struggling, it's like, if I know I can only share from my experience, and that is, go deep, get the roots, pull those roots out. And sometimes it takes, 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years. But if I hadn't continuously worked on myself, I would not still be a musician today. 100%. Because just there's so much else involved in the artist world, I find. And that would be my words of wisdom, and get a hobby. Like, do something really fun. I'm still trying to figure out my hobby.
Well, you knew I was going to come back with that. I was going to say, what's your hobby?
Well, traveling is my hobby.
Okay.
Especially over the last 2 years, I was like, I want to take a gap year and just travel for a year and just see the world. Like, I love traveling so much, and learning other languages. So, those are kind of hobbies. No, I don't knit, but rad.
Oh, Deanne, I'm so happy you're here, and I look forward to our conversation with people that are here in the chat after we're done. As always, you can find me at Love Brand You. Anything that I'm a little bit speechless, because I'm like, I just want to talk more with you, Deanne. Okay, so thank you for being here, and we'll stick around for the conversation. And as I do every week, I start out with the Love Brand You prayer, and at the end I do a closing affirmation, and then it'll be our ending for the recording. I'm tongue-tied. Like I feel like I'm just seriously fangirling. So Deanne, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sam.
All right. Our closing affirmation. I am fortunate and grateful to attract powerful and brilliant women from around the world who generously share their talents, wisdom, and love with me. For this I give thanks. I let it be so, and so it is. Amen.
Amen.